Liberation Day.
No exception.
Tariffs is the most beautiful word to me in the dictionary.
Revitalize domestic manufacturing and eventually bring down prices for Americans.
He's risking the global economy and his political future. President Donald Trump just dropped a trade bombshell that could either resurrect American manufacturing or trigger a worldwide economic meltdown. Is this America First policy a brilliant strategic gamble or a reckless act of economic warfare? As of April 2, 2025, in a dramatic move dubbed Liberation Day by the White House, Trump announced sweeping new tariffs on imports from over 180 countries. The bold strategy? A flat 10% universal import duty and even higher penalties on select nations. The message is clear. Trump is done playing nice on trade, and he's ready to take on the world to put America first. But the reaction? Fierce, divided, and explosive. The heart of Trump's plan is rooted in one idea. The United States has been taken advantage of for decades through unfair trade deals, excessive outsourcing, and one-sided economic partnerships. According to the administration, while countries like China, Mexico, and even close allies in Europe protect their own markets, they've flooded the U.S. with cheap goods, costing millions of American jobs and gutting domestic industries. In a speech delivered on April 2nd, Trump declared, "We are done being the world's piggy bank. Starting today, we charge for access to the American market." But the administration claims this will incentivize domestic production, reduce the national trade deficit, and force foreign nations to renegotiate deals that actually benefit American workers. Commerce Secretary Howard Lutnick doubled down, accusing countries like Germany and France of blocking U.S. beef and poultry while enjoying open access to American consumers. "No more," he said. "It's time for reciprocity." Supporters of the tariffs, including many in the conservative media and blue-collar voters, are calling it a long-overdue correction. Fox News columnist Liz Peek praised the move as a defining moment where Trump chooses patriotism over politics. She argues that Trump is putting American families and factories ahead of Wall Street elites and global bureaucrats. The administration believes this pressure campaign will force other nations to lower their own barriers, open their markets to U.S. goods, and ultimately create a more balanced trade system. Some Democrats are even quietly supporting parts of the plan. Congressman Jared Golden, a Democrat from Maine, said he'd vote to protect the tariff strategy, citing the devastation unfair trade has had on his district's paper mills and fisheries. But the opposition? Brutal. Economists warn that tariffs function like taxes, and consumers will pay the price. The Retail Industry Leaders Association has already predicted price hikes on everything from electronics to clothing. Tesla CEO Elon Musk didn't mince words either. In a statement on April 5th, he slammed the White House's economic advisor Peter Navarro as a moron, saying, "These tariffs hurt American companies and workers more than anyone else." Then there's the international backlash. China has already launched a full-scale propaganda offensive, mocking the U.S. for trying to revive the past with low-wage factory jobs. European leaders are drafting retaliatory tariffs. Global markets? Tumbling. This isn't just about economics. It's a geopolitical shift. By throwing out decades of free trade orthodoxy, Trump is signaling that America will no longer play by globalist rules. He's challenging not only China's dominance, but the entire framework of the World Trade Organization. To his supporters, this is exactly what's needed to rebalance power and bring jobs home. But critics argue the strategy could isolate the U.S., weaken alliances, and hand emerging markets more leverage. If the tariffs spark a full-blown trade war, the result could be inflation, job losses, and a serious hit to consumer confidence, all in the middle of Trump's 2024 comeback campaign. Polling shows the country is deeply split. As of April 3rd, a Business Insider survey found that 56% of Americans disapprove of Trump's economic policy. Yet in key battleground states like Michigan and Pennsylvania, support for tariffs has jumped, especially among union voters. This is a high-stakes bet, and Trump knows it. If he wins, he'll go down as the president who rebuilt the American economy. If he loses, the fallout could haunt the nation for years and cost him the White House. So here's the million-dollar question. Is Trump's tariff war a masterstroke of economic nationalism or a dangerous roll of the dice that could spiral into global chaos? Will the world cave to Trump's pressure or unite against him?
Donald Trump says the United States is poised to slap an additional 50% tariff on China and the rest of the world at the moment. You can see that the Dow Jones was about average.
America just dropped an economic bomb, and Beijing is livid. With one sweeping decision, Donald Trump may have just triggered the most dangerous trade war in modern history. As of April 8, 2025, President Trump has reintroduced tariffs on Chinese imports, sparking immediate backlash from the Chinese government, who now accuse the United States of economic blackmail and unilateral bullying. This dramatic escalation is unfolding under the banner of national security, but critics say it could destabilize the entire global economy. What began as a policy on trade has now become a flashpoint in a global power struggle. The roots of this conflict run deep. During his first term, Trump clashed with China over trade imbalances, intellectual property theft, and manufacturing exodus. But this time, the rhetoric is even more volatile. Citing China's alleged role in America's deadly fentanyl crisis, Trump has announced a 10% tariff on all Chinese goods, on top of previous levies, effective immediately. At the same time, Canada and Mexico are being hit with 25% tariffs tied to border enforcement and narcotics control. Beijing wasted no time in responding. In a statement from China's Ministry of Commerce, officials condemned the tariffs as a serious violation of World Trade Organization rules and warned of all necessary countermeasures. Chinese markets have already tumbled, and officials are now threatening to sever cooperation on counter-narcotics, accusing Washington of using pressure and coercion. 1. The fentanyl justification. Trump claims the tariffs are a necessary national security measure to curb the flow of fentanyl, a synthetic opioid linked to over 100,000 U.S. deaths annually. He argues Chinese companies are supplying precursor chemicals to Mexico, where the drugs are synthesized and smuggled into the U.S., but China fiercely denies this, saying it has some of the world's strictest anti-narcotics laws and that the U.S. is scapegoating China for its own crisis. Beijing now warns that Trump's actions will damage future cooperation on drug enforcement altogether. Second trade war reloaded. This is not just a repeat of the 2018 trade war. Trump's second-term agenda is far more expansive. Beyond tariffs, he has ended the de minimis loophole that allowed Chinese e-commerce giants like Shein and Temu to ship duty-free packages under $800 directly to U.S. consumers. Effective May 2, 2025, this exemption will vanish, severely disrupting China's online retail dominance. Trump has also floated a Liberation Day tariff of 60% on all Chinese goods, creating panic across Asian markets. Third, global reactions and alliances. The international response has been swift. Canada's Prime Minister Trudeau called the move unjustified and warned of immediate retaliation. Mexico's President Sheinbaum sent a high-level delegation to Washington to prevent escalation. Meanwhile, Beijing is accelerating trade deals with the European Union, Japan, South Korea, and BRICS nations in an attempt to counter U.S. influence. At the World Trade Organization meeting in Geneva, China's ambassador accused the U.S. of throwing the global economy into chaos with tariff shocks that could trigger a worldwide recession. Trump supporters argue that this strategy is long overdue. They claim America has been exploited by China for decades, through currency manipulation, job theft, intellectual property abuse, and now the opioid crisis. By imposing harsh tariffs, Trump is forcing foreign powers to play by America's rules or face the consequences. But critics see danger ahead. Economists warn the tariffs could backfire, triggering retaliatory moves that hike prices for U.S. consumers, destabilize global supply chains, and deepen inflationary pressure. Capital Economics estimates China's GDP could shrink by 0.5% to 1% if the tariffs persist. But the U.S. isn't immune. Retailers, tech companies, and manufacturers are already bracing for cost spikes and product shortages. Even more concerning, the geopolitical ramifications. By reimposing aggressive tariffs, Trump is signaling a total break from globalization. If China retaliates with bans on U.S. tech, agriculture, or financial services, it could ignite a new cold trade war. Meanwhile, Xi Jinping, in a veiled New Year address, warned China to brace for challenges from the West, clearly anticipating a combative Trump presidency. And in private diplomatic cables, Chinese officials are reportedly preparing to weaponize the BRICS coalition against the dollar-dominated global trade system. This is no longer just about trade. It's about power, prestige, and the future of global leadership. With each new tariff, the rift between Washington and Beijing widens. The era of cooperation is over. What comes next is uncertain. Will Trump's tough stance restore American industry, or will it plunge the world into economic chaos?
104% tariffs going into effect on China.
China has said they will retaliate.
Where Donald Trump has slapped 104% tariffs on China.
It's official. The U.S. just hit China with a 104% tariff, and the global economy is bracing for impact. Is this the boldest economic power move in decades, or the spark that ignites a global trade meltdown? As of April 8, 2025, President Donald Trump has reignited the U.S. China trade war with a vengeance, and the consequences are already being felt across Wall Street, Beijing, and beyond. So, what pushed Trump to launch this all-out tariff offensive? And what does it mean for your wallet, your job, and the fragile balance of global trade? This isn't just another tariff headline. This is a full-blown escalation of a battle that's been brewing for years. The drama began earlier this month when Trump, citing unfair trade practices, slapped a 34% tariff on Chinese goods. China immediately fired back with a mere 34% tariff on U.S. exports, prompting the White House to threaten even steeper penalties if Beijing didn't back down. But China held the line, and just hours ago, Trump followed through on his threat, imposing a massive 104% tariff on Chinese imports. The announcement came late Tuesday night, and it's set to take effect at midnight tonight, April 9, 2025. Treasury Secretary Scott Bessent wasted no time blaming Beijing, calling China's retaliatory move a big mistake and accusing them of exploiting the U.S. economy for decades. According to Bessent, the time has come to level the playing field. But China isn't folding, not even close. First, China is pushing back with fury and with propaganda. Beijing has vowed to fight till the end, denouncing the tariffs as economic blackmail and launching a slick digital campaign targeting American voters. Chinese state media released AI-generated videos showing American families struggling to afford groceries, with ominous imagery of a crumbling U.S. economy. One viral clip ends with a haunting twist: Trump's own "Make America Great Again" slogan, repurposed as a mockery. The message from China is clear. If Trump wants a trade war, he's going to get one. Second, markets are already reacting, and not in a good way. On April 8th, the Dow Jones Industrial Average plunged nearly 1% after swinging more than 1,800 points throughout the day. Tech giants like Apple, Tesla, and Nvidia, all heavily exposed to Chinese supply chains, lost billions in market value in mere hours. Economists are warning this could be just the beginning. Prices on electronics, cars, and even basic consumer goods could skyrocket if this tariff clash drags on. The fear? A return to 2018-style trade chaos, but on steroids. Third, the political divide in Washington is deepening. Trump loyalists are cheering the move, claiming it's a long-overdue correction to decades of Chinese economic aggression. HUD Secretary Scott Turner told reporters today that the tariffs are a necessary reset to protect American factories and end U.S. dependency on Beijing. But critics, on both sides of the aisle, are sounding the alarm. Economists and business leaders fear inflation will surge, jobs could be lost, and small businesses may get crushed in the crossfire. As of today, April 9th, neither side is blinking, and that's exactly what has global markets panicked. So, what happens next? Is this the masterstroke that forces China to finally play fair, or a gamble that could crash the global economy? From one perspective, Trump's strategy makes sense. For decades, China has flooded the U.S. with cheap goods, undercut American workers, and evaded IP laws. Many argue it's time for a course correction, and Trump's tariffs send a powerful message. But the risks are enormous. China is the world's second-largest economy and America's third-biggest trading partner. A tit-for-tat tariff war could choke global supply chains, crush consumer demand, and push developing economies into crisis. Already, countries like Germany and South Korea are expressing concern about collateral damage. And don't forget 2024's inflation scars. Voters are wary of anything that might drive up prices at the gas pump or grocery store again. Trump's bet is that pressure will break China's will. But if Beijing digs in, as it's clearly signaling, it could be American consumers and workers who bear the brunt. Tonight, the world watches as a new phase of U.S. China economic warfare begins. Is this Trump's boldest move yet, or his biggest miscalculation? Will these tariffs force China to back down or drag the global economy into recession? And here's the question for you. Do you support this 104% tariff? Or is it a dangerous gamble with America's economic future?
Elon Musk, who is usually vocal about Trump's policies.
Tesla shares down more than 5% today. Shares now 43% below their.
The world's richest man is watching his fortune go up in smoke. Tesla stock is collapsing, public backlash is exploding, and Elon Musk just lost $135 billion in a matter of months. Is this the beginning of the end for the Musk empire? As of April 7, 2025, Elon Musk's net worth has fallen to $298 billion, marking a shocking 31% drop since the beginning of the year. And behind the numbers lies something much deeper, a growing global rebellion against Musk, Tesla, and the political world he's aligned himself with. But what's really driving this meltdown? Who's behind the backlash, and can Musk survive the storm he helped create? This crisis didn't come out of nowhere. At the center of it all is Musk's controversial role inside Donald Trump's 2025 administration, where he serves as a senior advisor in the so-called Department of Government Efficiency, or DOGE. What was once seen as a genius move to influence policy is now unraveling. Trump's aggressive new tariff regime, announced in early March 2025, has sparked international outrage, rattled Wall Street, and directly hit Tesla's bottom line. While Musk tried to walk a fine line, advising Trump but preaching global free trade, that balancing act has backfired. And now, the consequences are rippling through every corner of his business empire. First, the stock collapse. Tesla shares have lost nearly 40% of their value since January 1st, dragging down Musk's net worth by over $135 billion. And it's not just market fluctuations, it's personal. Investors are growing increasingly skeptical of Musk's focus, his political entanglements, and Tesla's future under trade war pressure. Second, the tariff chaos. Musk has openly clashed with Trump's trade team, especially after top White House advisor Peter Navarro dismissed Tesla's manufacturing credentials. Navarro mocked Tesla for being foreign-sourced, prompting Musk to fire back, pointing out Tesla's vertically integrated U.S. factories and the American-made nature of most of its components. But the damage was already done. Global investors fear Tesla's cost base is too vulnerable to escalating tariffs, particularly as China and the EU threaten retaliatory duties on electric vehicles. Third, the brand backlash. A growing number of critics, including progressives, environmentalists, and even some tech insiders, have launched what they're calling the Tesla takedown movement. It's a coordinated boycott campaign urging consumers to reject Tesla until Musk steps away from Trump and ends what they see as a betrayal of democratic values and climate goals. This isn't just online noise. Tesla's Q1 vehicle orders are reportedly down 15% year over year, with brand sentiment scores plummeting across social media and consumer tracking platforms. So, what does all of this add up to? For Musk personally, this may be the steepest fall in fortune in modern history, both financially and reputationally. For Tesla, it raises urgent questions about the company's independence, its global competitiveness, and whether its once loyal customer base is starting to fracture. And for the broader economy, it signals how deeply political decisions, like Trump's protectionist tariffs, are now reshaping the landscape for tech and manufacturing giants alike. Even Wall Street, which once celebrated Musk as a visionary, is turning cautious. Wedbush analyst Dan Ives, long known as a Tesla bull, recently slashed his price target and warned of a perfect storm facing the company in 2025. Ives cited not only the tariff overhang but Musk's increasing political distractions as a critical risk factor. And the bigger picture? Musk isn't alone. The world's 10 richest people have collectively lost $172 billion in just 3 days since the U.S. announced its new tariffs, a clear sign that we're entering a new era of global economic uncertainty. Elon Musk once stood at the peak of tech, wealth, and global influence. But in 2025, the tides are turning. Caught between politics, protests, and plummeting markets, he now faces a stark choice: double down on power, or pull back before it all comes crashing down. Will Musk weather the storm and come back stronger? Or has he finally flown too close to the sun? Let us know what you think in the comments. And if you want more sharp, fast analysis on the global power shifts shaping our future, don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe.